Did I think we're probably live. Ladies and gentlemen, 4 p.m., Canoga Park, California, March 30th, 2023. We're talking some cool stuff today. This episode is brought to you by Eagle Rider Motorcycle Rentals and Tours. We're cracking some cold ones. We got FedEx in the background. And today we have a very special guest, Bryan Campbell, in the house to talk about the Tech Air technology, which is some pretty rad stuff that we've been testing out, and we figured we'd share with you guys. So, boys, what's up? Cheers, actually, first of all.
Cheers. And cheers. Bryan, welcome. Cheers. Thanks for coming into the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Rainy Southern California day, so hopefully it's not a 4-hour trek back home. But
what a rare thing, right?
Yeah, but so Bryan Campbell is with Alpinestars, was introduced to us by Randy Cummins, who's been on the show in the past. But before we get into kind of the Tech Air and the heated gear, I wasn't here yesterday.
That's right.
And the drop happened.
We had, well, the week before I wasn't here, and you guys did the drop. And then you weren't here yesterday. We did the drop. So,
but you were able to watch the drop.
Yes.
I only watched some of the unedited footage.
Did you see it at all?
Not
no,
yet.
You haven't even been
busy.
Yes, that's right. You haven't.
So how did it go?
It was great.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was a really good drop. If you haven't seen it, I know you've been watching the Daytona series. Well, this one's cool. We ride the 135. We have a great time. We go down to Key West, Miami. We have a good time there. And
yeah, and that one, no, the Key West did not drop yet.
Not yet.
Coming. So there's another episode. So this is what, a 5-episode series?
Yeah, we just dropped the 135 test ride. Had some great fun on that. Then after that is the ride down to Miami after checking out the Bagger Racing at the Daytona Speedway. And the final episode is actually riding the Keys. And
so I have a question. Why can't we just have fun when we ride?
Do we not have fun when we ride?
There was a comment that said, and I just happened to see this, like,
okay,
boy, to get off the line fast and all that speed, like, that's just making up for your male deficiencies. And it's like, we were just playing around.
I would like to actually find that. Can we do what was the
weekend keyboard
Warriors Cup?
Yes.
So we used
and
to
he's usually pretty kind. Actually.
Yeah, this is not to make fun of them. It's just to emphasize that sometimes when we're answering a very large sum of comments on a daily basis, sometimes they confuse us. So I guess I'll leave his name out because he's a good dude, but he says, I don't see the need for that much power unless you're doing track days. Why is it so important for some people to be first off the line or have the biggest motor? LOL. I guess there are those insecure people that seek attention and require validation. I'm more than willing to accept that fate if it means I have a super fast bike. That 135 was epic.
That was fun. We were having a good time. I wish we had a bit more time on the bike.
Yep.
And I wish we had like 5 of them that we could all.
That would have been fun. But to answer his question, you can have a 107 going 100 miles an hour on the highway next to a 135 going 100 miles an hour on the highway. And yes, you're both going 100 miles an hour. So really,
I just had more fun getting there.
He had more fun getting there. And when you crack the throttle,
I don't think he's talking about even. I think he's talking about guys that think that they are all that because they have small, you know what. That's kind of where
motors,
I'm at with
of course.
Small feet.
Well, enough people are buying them, so that's got to say something about
that.
Yes.
Well, and it was amazing right out of the crate. This is going to be an interesting thing over the next year to see how many people jump in these motors and how well Harley does with them. But so next week you're saying it's the ride to Miami, and then we finish off with the Keys, right?
Yep.
So don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell your friends to do the same. Always got some great stuff up on the show. So
let's jump in. You know, we reached out. So before that, we go on these rides in the winter and people often ask us, you know, why aren't you using heated gear? Are you using heated gear? And we're kind of like, no. And it's not like we're trying to be badasses. We've just found a way to be comfortable. And that was really through layering up. But, you know, sometimes we look like, at least I do, the Michelin man. You know, I'm just like ready to pop.
Yeah.
Something, but we found a way to stay warm. And so we were talking to Randy, like, why don't we figure out and test out some heated gear? And we reached out to you and you sent a couple of vests over and some of the gloves.
Yeah.
We took those out on a ride, and Josh has been rocking the vest. You owe me one, by the way.
It didn't come through.
XL.
It didn't come through.
Not yet.
All right.
But so
Send one out as
maybe
soon as
in
I get back
our
to the office.
older age, not Josh's older age, but maybe we'll get a little smarter with heated gear. And the things that we liked about it, the battery life, and you don't have to plug it into something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's better or worse because we haven't tried, but we didn't want to be tied to the bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think the lack of tether is an attractive, aspect of the heat tech gear. I know that some of the touring bikes, a lot of touring bikes, a lot of ADV bikes have heated grips and, heated seat, and those do a good enough job by themselves, but it's nice not being attached to the bike. There's something about it's not like you have a seatbelt on the bike, like that's just ridiculous. But just being able to get on the bike, get off the bike and go about your day, not have your gear intrude in that process.
Right.
That's pretty much the idea behind it, is just try to make it as seamlessly integrated into your riding experience as possible. So,
and comfortable.
Yeah. Most importantly.
So we kind of jumped into that. That's my fault. Let's back up just a second.
Yeah.
So give people your name and then how long you've been at Alpinestars and a little bit of background about you being a journalist and your bike riding and those kind of things.
Yeah, so my name is Bryan Campbell. I'm heading up the communications for Alpinestars Adventure, leading everything that has to do with adventure touring. That's pretty much, I'm steering that ship. And I've been at Alpinestars for 9 months now. But in a previous life, I was a journalist, and I was at a website freelancing, doing cars and motorcycles, news and reviews. And I've been working with Alpinestars since pretty much the beginning of my career. So I know like my coworker Heath. At one point he was the one giving me gear, and I was testing stuff out. Right. So we have a good working relationship already. And the thing is, getting into Alpinestars, I know a lot of the products, so it kind of made it a nice, as smooth of transition as you.
You have a good knowledge base because you've been using all the stuff.
Yeah. And it's nice because there's I'm testing the gear out too, and they're just kind of like always, it's always like a trial and error process. So it's nice to be able to, test the gear out and see what's good, see what needs improvement. So it's in a constant state of flux, but it's definitely, once you get behind the curtains, you can see why they're like the top brand in the industry.
So you've been able to test it because you're a rider, and you've been riding since you're 19?
Yeah. So I think I just turned 19 and I got a hand-me-down Ninja 250 from my brother. And I'd never ridden before that, and I thought he was going to teach me how to ride. He was like, "You know how to ride a bicycle, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." "Can you drive manual?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, there you go." So I just hopped. I was like, borrowed a helmet, borrowed his jacket, and hopped on, and was just cranking through the gears all day on the street.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure that's like the first day my mom started going gray too. So
right.
But and I went through a ZX11, my dad's old Honda Shadow, ZX10, and then when I became a journalist, I was like, I thought I was always like a sport bike guy. I was like, those are the best kinds of bikes out there. Why would you need anything else? Like this highest performance. It's like Ferrari performance for 1/10 the price, blah, blah.
Right.
And then I think one of my first press trips my first experience as a journalist was on the Ducati Scrambler. And like that brand exploded the moment that it hit the scene. And it's because it's an accessible bike that they're like, here, take it off road, or, don't. But then I also got into adventure bikes. I did a ride across Oregon with a little bit of off-roading. I kind of it opened up my world to a totally different, side of things. And I was just like, how many different motorcycles can I ride? And just like, Now it's not just like I love sport bikes. I pretty much just love almost any motorcycle you hop on. It's like anything can be fun. So.
Right.
And we love that about our followers too, because not all of them are motorcycle riders. Most of them are.
Yeah.
But they run other brands as well. And, our whole deal was just get out and travel and see the country. And if you can do it on two wheels, great.
Yeah.
We didn't say we're Harley specific. We're Harley specific and very loyal to that brand. Mm-hmm. But we just like the Americana of that. And I don't know, I was on a sport bike many years ago, and I don't know if I could handle it at this age, right? Like, you just want to lay a knee down and just go for it.
Yeah. Well, I had my ZX10 I bought brand new in 2009, and it was in 2008. And it was probably like the last time you can get a leader bike below $10,000. And I think it was like 8,500, 10 grand out the door.
Right.
I had that bike for, I guess it was until 2016. It got stolen right out from in front of my apartment. And like, it was, you know, I didn't have theft on it, so it wasn't.
There you
it was,
go.
It was a write-off of my taxes that year. But 3 years later, I had moved apartments, and I was walking back. I was still in Jersey City, and I was walking back from the supermarket, and I saw a random number come up. And I never pick up random numbers, but I was like, "Oh, let's pick it up anyway." I'm like, "Yeah, it's like Jersey City Police Department." I was like, he's like, "Is this Bryan Campbell?" I'm like, "Who's asking?" And he's like, "Are you the owner of a 2008 black Kawasaki ZX-10? I was like, "I was." He's like, "Well, we just pulled the guy over in Easton, PA, riding with no plates." He's like, "If you want to come pick it up, we got an impound." I was like,
Wow.
I was like, "You fucking kidding me?" He's like,
You
"No."
said Ohio, I'd say, is that UC Bear?
But yeah, I went and picked it up, and
Wow.
I only had 2,000 extra miles on the clock.
big
A
deal.
couple things were broken, but I got it back and got it back on the road. But then,
That's amazing.
There was a hot wire job in there that I'm now dealing with. But there's a
Right.
couple
So
things
you
to
have that
explore.
bike today.
That bike is still in New York, which I'm getting back from the. I'm shipping back from the East Coast, so I'll
Wow.
have that soon. Probably should have mentioned that. I moved out here for the Alpinestars job in June from Brooklyn, but I'm originally from New Jersey.
Coming up on a year.
Yeah. Almost 3 months now.
So you went from a Ninja 250 directly to a ZX11.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great
Yeah.
job.
My brother handed me the keys because I rode the 250 for a season, and then I went to his in Queens, and we went out to Jones Beach on, like, he had a ZZR12 and I had a ZX11, and I was like, that was the first time I learned to respect power going from a 250 to an 1100. But then I had to get back on my 250 to go back to New Jersey, back home, and I felt like I was riding a moped, and like felt like my knees were touching.
Right.
I was like, I went back. I was like, Ron, when can I make the trade up? And at the end of that season, he handed me the key to the ZX11. I gave it back to 250. He was like, a lot of people say this is borderline, absolutely insane. He's like,
Right.
do not prove them right. And he handed me the key.
Yeah.
I had that bike for, I think, a season or two. And mind you, I was 18. I blew the connecting rod bearing at like 150. I'm scared that,
Yeah.
like, you know, like your brain's supposed to counteract for like vibrations, like
Right.
in your, it could not keep up. Like the whole bike was vibrating so much that the whole world was just like a blur.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What have we gotten up to, like 130 maybe, 125
Who?
on the baggers?
So it was,
I
it was
don't-
130. It wasn't.
I don't know
150.
how.
Blew that
I
one
mean,
out of proportion.
I was pinned at 120 when Luke and I were racing
Okay.
across Wyoming. It was
I mean,
still reaching. I think
yeah.
we were probably 140, 135.
on a
That's
Harley,
fast.
same deal. I think on my soft tail, maybe I went like 135 on the Arizona trip when that Mustang wanted to race in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But I've ridden my buddy's R1, and you can be on, I'm not saying particularly that I did this, but you could be someone that looks like me going 160, 170 on the 118 effortlessly while putting trust in a machine that,
Yeah, those
things
bikes
are going
just
so
completely
fast by
different.
you. Yeah.
I do want to correct myself before I get torn apart by the keyboard
Yes.
warriors. I was probably closer to 125 or 130, not 150.
Okay.
Still possible.
Yeah, still possible.
But, you know, every year you tell that story.
Yeah,
It
just
goes
add a
up
mile.
2 or 3 miles an
Yeah.
hour. Yeah, I'm in the 10th year. We were doing 205. So how'd you get it stopped? You just let off and
Yeah.
roll?
Eventually slowed down, and then it just heard a loud knocking and pinging sound.
Yeah.
Pulled into the garage, and being 18, I figured, you know, I'll just park it and leave it for the night. Maybe it'll fix itself in the morning.
Exactly.
I ended up dropping the engine and splitting the crankcase, and I went in there and I just started picking like metal shavings just coming out like it was confetti. And then I got down to the connecting rod bearing, and you could see that it superheated and frayed out and just
Wow.
went all over the place.
Crazy.
Well, we talk about it all the time, like especially on these air-cooled bikes, you know, where you're doing 100 miles an hour, it's 100 degrees outside,
Yeah.
and these things are just winding, you know, and you can't imagine how fast what's going on inside those
Yeah.
cylinder heads. And
Well, especially when it's been 115 and we're out in the middle of the
just
desert.
crazy.
You're going, how is the oil and the RP. I mean, everything is just moot, but perfect riding weather is like 70.
Yeah.
Bikes love that.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the heated gear just a little bit. And we're coming out of season, but it's a good thing. Like when you guys are thinking about this stuff, the ease and comfort for the rider has to be like, cause to me, I put the gloves on, I put the vest on, and I tried the large, but they're just, I love that they're lightweight, the batteries there. They had a leather glove. I had the water resistant glove, which I thought was really nice.
Yeah.
But as you're thinking about this heated gear, is that something we're just so stupid we've never thought about it? Or
Well, it's a bit of a, I mean, given like the history of like motorcycle riding, heated gear is most certainly a luxury, right?
right.
But it's kind of one of those things that's like if you've ridden in the cold and not had heated gear, it's like, all right, it's one of those cases where you don't know what you're missing.
Right.
But if you've ridden in the cold with heated gear, it's almost like you never want to go back. It's kind of like layering. Like you'll never not layer again in the
Right.
So it's just imagine adding one of those. Another.
That's kind of like what Matt Laidlaw was saying, right? Like he was all plugged in.
Yeah. And he had heated insoles, heated pants, heated jacket, liner, or something rather. I think where I honestly got the most enjoyment and comfort out of it was when we got back from that trip on the Loneliness Road in America. I just started wearing, whether it's 40 degrees or 60, I would just wear that heated vest under my denim. And on a day where it's not particularly cold and I'm just being a pussy, for lack of a better word, you just feel like you're sitting in the sun. You have these warm shoulders and warm chest and back. And you're like, you kind of use it at any time.
Just that little luxury. It's like, I mean, like you have if you've ever been in a car with air conditioned seats, it's like, it's not particularly hot out, but I'll still put the air conditioned seats on because it feels nice.
This is true.
I mean, heck, the Jeep Laura has got a heated steering wheel. So it's like you not only the seat, but the wheel.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to dive into it a bit more this year, and maybe that way, because when we put this Dickie suit on, which we absolutely love, and it kind of looks cool when you're on. I mean, but it's a lot to pack. I mean, these things are like this thick but they do work, and so I think we're going to have to step out of the zone a little bit and do a little bit more of the heated.
It's like you're putting a Coleman sleeping bag in a set because they are a sleeping bag basically. So when you fold it up, it's still at least
it's like a whole duffel bag for me.
It takes up a whole saddlebag.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to wear it, if you have to wear it the whole time, fine. But if
and he has a hat that he wears, so you can't put it in the tour bag.
Right, that would be easy.
So we came back from the trip, talked to you about that, and then we took another trip to Daytona, and I was watching Kyle Wyman on an interview he was doing, and he was out at the track or something, and I think it was maybe you guys put it out. I can't remember what it was, and he was talking about how he on the track certainly wears the armor and the air tech. But he was also saying on his daily, that's where I saw the vest.
Yeah.
So he's like, I will not ride without this protection.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to you to say, hey, what is this stuff? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's one of those cases where the athletes like it's regulation in MotoGP. Every single one of the guys in MotoGP is wearing airbag technology. And if you want to ride Dakar, you have to have airbag technology as well. And they're using the Tech Air off-road, and that's the Tech Air off-road for consumer. So to be able to buy as a consumer is coming out later this year. But I think it was like the first day or the first week of the Dakar. There was a massive crash one of the first days of Dakar, and it was like a 27G crash. And you can see we have the telemetry. We constantly data logging. We're always data logging from MotoGP. We're always data logging from Dakar, and basically everywhere we can. And motocross, like all the race series, because it's constantly going. So it's basically just like it's free, free data mining basically. It was a 27G crash, and you see him get up immediately and run back to his bike and get back on his bike. So it's just but the Tech Off Road, you get 2 deployments. before the canisters have to be replaced. So basically off road, you're going to be going down a whole lot more. So we figured if you're out in the middle of nowhere, it's not like you can send your vest in to get the canister replaced. So that's what the Tech Air off road gets to.
So you've got a 10, and then there's
the 5,
the 5 and the 3.
Yeah. So the 10 is shoulders, collar, chest, and back and thighs. So it's closer to what the MotoGP guys are wearing. The coverage that they get, that's what the Tech Air 10 is. And then there's the Tech Air 5, which is the chest, shoulders, and back. And it comes down, the coverage comes down to here. And the Tech Air 3, which you guys were testing, is just the chest, shoulders, and back. It kind of goes up and over.
And so is there any, like your neck, or is there...
So that's one thing that we've actually heard a lot. A lot of people are like, I want my neck to be, what happens if your neck moves around? And we've actually seen in our research that there's actually, you want a little bit of movement, because if your helmet is not welded to your head. So if you bolt your helmet, like if your helmet's tight and can't move any, your head's still moving around in there. So if you get into an accident and your head keeps going and your helmet's there, you actually end up injuring your neck more. So having a little bit of freedom of movement is actually a good thing. It just allows a little bit of play instead of just kind of bolting your helmet and, hurting yourself against your own neck like that. So, and
the chest and back, is that kind of the major trauma areas other than broken leg or whatever
Yeah, so it's pretty much kind of protecting that's where your vital organs are. Yeah, so it's like when you go down, you're sliding on your chest. You have to put your hands up, sliding on your chest or back, and that's pretty much what that's helping to protect. Just like the more.
So you say sliding.
Yeah.
So does this have abrasive materials on it?
Yes. So the Tech Air 3 is actually made of abrasion resistant material on the outside. So the Tech Air 3 is the only one of the 3, the 5 and the 10 that can be worn as an outer garment as well. So the Tech Air 5 and the Tech Air 10 are designed to be worn under your jacket, and the Tech Air 3 can be worn under or over.
What's preferred?
It's kind of, dealer's choice. I know you said you liked wearing it under your jacket.
I did both. But it was a little bit cooler the other day, and I threw it on and put a rain jacket over the top.
Yeah.
I had enough leeway just in case. I think it recommended 1.25 inches.
4 inches, I thought, right? 1.25 inches, huh?
I think it's 1.25
Gotcha.
4 centimeters, I think.
4. Yeah. Gotcha.
So
a lot of our jackets already have that give in them, or their Tech Air. Though if you see on our website, all the Alpinestars jackets say Tech Air compatible, and they have that. There's a little bit of give in the material, or there's sized with that kind of space.
So from a safety perspective, because we put the miles down, we just decided we're going to start trying these out.
Yeah.
You never know what happens out there, but if you can protect yourself, we talked a little bit about in an episode a couple of weeks back about Josh's spill on the 190.
Mm-hmm.
He was in one of Thrashin's new Atlas jackets with some Kevlar back on it, and that jacket completely held up. Josh didn't have any road rash other than on his hands a little bit
on my ass.
And it just talks to, when you do, if something does happen to you, at least you've got a little bit of protection there.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like every little bit extra helps. And when it's fully inflated, the airbags are equivalent to 9 CE2 level chest and back protectors. So it's kind of like if you have one CE level 2 back protector and it saved your ass. Just imagine but that's just an impact absorption. But,
we ride around in jeans and t-shirts in the summer, and that definitely is not, what do they say? Dress for the slide, not the ride.
Yeah.
We definitely don't dress for the slide.
No.
We definitely take the chance of, hey.
But the one time I did have a slide, I was dressed.
Right.
For the slide.
Yeah.
Right. Because it was winter time.
But I was going to say, today was actually, I've been just looking at this vest for a while. We put them on last week, and I'm sure you'll talk about it too. The way it gets activated, you're not turning it on. Anyway, I wore it today for the first time. And personally, in this weather, I usually wear a flannel or a hoodie, and then my denim Thrashin highway jacket with Kevlar lining with a one, I don't know if it's level 2 or level what, but a spinal protector in the back. And not that it's restrictive by any means, but you're in more of a structured upper body garment, if you will. This morning I tested out the Tech Air 3, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I had a hoodie, then the Tech Air 3, and then a windbreaker over top, and it just felt like I was wearing a hoodie, which was kind of cool. It's your knowing that you have this protection and something that really doesn't feel like you're wearing anything extra, at least in this weather. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it just gives you the peace of mind. And the thing is, one of the aims of it is to be, like I was saying before, just not be intrusive into your ride. It's just make it as seamless as possible, getting on the bike, getting off the bike, and kind of going about your day.
Well, I have been wearing it, and I was telling you earlier, it mentally challenged me the first couple days because I'm like, is it going to go off? Is it going to like just? And you get through that, but it was like, if I cut traffic and I do, and you're like, no, dude, it's not going to, like, you're fine. But talk a little bit about how the I mean, you've got, like, it's crazy where you were talking about the guy that was doing the testing.
Yeah.
Trying to throw the bike around and jumps. And
yeah. Yeah. So he just recently posted Motology down in Australia. He was wearing a Tech Air 5 and it was in the road mode. So the Tech Air 5 has different modes. You can do road, and then you can also do track. So it just changes the algorithm a little bit, or the tolerances of it. But he had it in road mode, and he has a little motocross track on his farm, and he was on a Yamaha T7, and he was ripping this thing. Like, he was hitting jumps, he was catching air. At one point, he was like, "That's the biggest send I've ever done off that jump," and it just wasn't popping. So he's like, "All right, I'm going to get on the CR things, a CR 250." And he was ripping that thing, and he was hitting jumps, and he took it to his enduro course, and he was hopping over logs, and it still wasn't popping. He was getting 12 feet in the air, still was not popping. So then he heads into the woods. He's like, all right, I'm gonna really have to try. He's like, I'm gonna find the gnarliest log, and the thing was maybe 3.5 feet tall. And he went over it once, and he tried it again, and you just see him go over, and you can see it's from the body cam he's wearing, the GoPro. You see him go like that, and then right before he hits the ground, you hear that pop, and he gets up, and he finally popped it. But after all that, it finally knew that it knows what a crash looks like, and it knows what standard riding looks like, because we've done countless hours and millions of miles of data acquisition with MotoGP riders and other motorsport athletes for the past 20 years. So the algorithms are stored in the Tech Air 5, it's in the back, and the Tech Air 3, it's down there. But it's the gyroscopes and accelerometers know what an imminent crash looks like. So it's not reactive. It's it's predictive in a way. So it's designed to inflate before the impact. So it's and then it stays fully inflated for about 5 seconds for any secondary impacts, because crashes last longer than the blink of an eye.
Right.
But if they're lasting any longer than 5 seconds, you're really in for it. So
Right. Have you ever felt one go off?
I have, yeah, because I'm still relatively the new guy at Alpinestars. We did an event, and then they're like, "You're going to be the demo guy." I was like, "All right." So I put on the Tech Air 3. We were actually at the bike shed. Was it last fall? And it's one thing when I've never had it go off in a crash, but it's one thing to have it go off in a crash, but to be standing there and expecting it, you feel it, and it's more like someone just kind of slapping you on the back and then giving you a big hug. But then there's been stories where people don't even notice it going off, or people are asked will I know if it goes off? I'm like, well, in the event of a motorcycle accident, you're gonna be worrying more about other things going on than the airbag, and that's pretty much the idea. Is you shouldn't have to worry about it. It's just
that's
there.
a good point, because I think if you did get in a wreck, you wouldn't even know it or think it.
Yeah,
it would just be happening.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I was
one of those
telling
things.
him we were at the final drag show before the disaster happened.
Right.
I'm not saying the word.
Yes.
But they had people walking down the runway. Pop.
Was that
pop.
That was
yeah. I'm pretty sure it was.
That was the first debut of the Airbag Fest. I think it was the best.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the technology, I'm just guessing that when you have sudden if it goes past certain angles in any direction, it's starting to think that something's happening.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the exact details of the algorithm is beyond me,
Right.
but like it's pretty much there's tolerances. So it knows when certain parameters are met. It knows what a low slide looks like. It knows like when you're high siding, it knows when you're going over the bars or when you've been hit from behind. It's just, there's so many like countless scenarios that have been programmed into it that it knows what that looks like.
So it wouldn't do it if you just lean.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But it's like
that's
20 years worth of data, isn't it? I heard that on one of the videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've gathered this for 20 years.
Yeah. And it's still constantly going on. Every time we get, every time a customer goes down in an airbag, and they send it back in for the canister to get refilled, we look at the data logging, and then we send that off, and that's another one. So it's just a matter of, how many crashes or, how many deployments have we had the past 20 years?
Right.
And even non-deployments, it just knows, okay, this is the normal riding experience and all those parameters. So it's just a matter of, countless scenarios.
So there's sometimes guys will be up on a mountain road and they need to make a U-turn and it's got a severe grade.
Mm-hmm.
The bike goes over. They may not fall over, but they may step over. Guys in a parking lot that hit a pothole.
Why are you? So
I'm
there's
just
two
asking,
stories.
so unless it's
Like
like
maybe these two stories might have happened.
I mean, it really comes down to
hard to say, right?
Yeah, I've never picked the brain of the technology that we have, but I imagine that the scenario is somewhere in there. I mean, we have the Tech Air off-road coming out, and the question is, will it just constantly go off because we fall all the time off-road? So the question is, will I have to get this thing refilled all the time? But it's going to be, the algorithm is going to be changed to take certain things into account. So, I mean, the video that I was talking about just before, that's a perfect example. This guy was absolutely ripping this T7 and the CR around, and it wasn't going off.
He couldn't get it to go off. Yeah.
So it's kind of like the proof is.
So I would imagine it probably wouldn't go off in either of those two because the rider's not down on the ground.
Yeah.
The rider may take a jolt or something, but the bike's on the ground, not the rider.
Yeah, exactly.
I think my son needed this when he was doing FMX. That would have been great for.
I just wonder if it's something that maybe there's eventually LiDAR involved. I mean, with off-road, you could be doing something where you're ripping into a berm, and if you're at that skill level, your torso could be inches from the ground and experience a very severe G-force when entering that, but you're not going to hit the ground. So where's that instance where if the rear wheel washes out and you're going to fall? I'm not asking you that.
It's the thing is, it's even with the Tech Air 10 is, I mean, normally if you're on your Harley dragging a knee, probably something's bad is about to happen. But if you're on the track dragging a knee, it's totally commonplace.
Right.
So that's where the algorithms, change and take those scenarios into. So there's road and there's race settings. And then for the Tech Air off-road, we're going to have a few more settings that are still to be determined, but it's going to be road, off-road, and then one or two others, I think.
Has Randy worn one yet?
I believe he has. Yeah, he
Didn't you go down and to
I was with him when he went down there.
And didn't you say they had a bag for him?
I think they gave him one.
I think they
he
did.
did. Yeah, he definitely has one.
Kind of just watched him go on a little bit of a shopping spree.
Yeah.
Felt a little left out. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of great gear, and I believe he used one, and I was just really intrigued because that was the first time I had heard about it. So he's explaining this thing to Randy. I'm like, what?
Well, what do they say? They say the speed really doesn't kill. It's the stopping, the sudden stop,
the sudden lack of speed that gets you. Yeah,
moving and when you think about it,
in Oregon,
when you think about taking an impact, if you're going 100 miles an hour on a highway and you come off your bike, your Harley, you're riding down the road, and you hit the ground, your innards are definitely going to be moving and G-force, and that you might not even think anything's wrong, but something's really wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll try the 10s just yet.
Yeah.
So with the 10 though, the leather's got to have enough room in
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like there a lot of the Alpinestars one-piece suits. They're designed with Tech Air in mind. So the old suits used to be integrated, but the Tech Air 10 is designed to go under the suit. And there's some of the material is expansive, so they have like different zones or abrasion zones, like depending on it's like basically like the where you're more likely to slide on if you go down. But then there's different parts of the suit that have, different materials have different elasticity to them. So you pretty much don't even notice it. It's just like another layer.
So with the suits, you're talking full suits, the 10, right?
Yeah, like Kyle Wyman or Ben was wearing.
So is it legs?
No, it just goes down to your thighs.
To your thighs.
Yeah. So the race boots come up high enough where it's pretty much right there. And then
so you're pretty covered. And leather, I mean, you can't beat leather. You
I'm
can be
sure
sliding
Ben's
down
in it when he was.
Yeah.
So Ben Bostrom is his nephew.
Yeah.
So you're sliding in jeans, you slide a certain, but in leather, you can slide for a long time and get up.
Well, those guys are typically closer to the ground when they go down.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're just hoping that they're not getting a sudden, crank.
Ben said, he goes, yeah, it's when you lay it down, you're already 6 inches off the ground. So when you go down, as long as it's not a high side, you're sliding. But he did say he had one where he did a high side, and he said, blue sky, asphalt, blue sky, asphalt. That was a gnarly one.
I saw one the other day on Instagram where the guy hit the guy in the back, and it flipped the dude up in the air. And this guy wheelied under the dude and dropped him down on the. So he helped him not get like mashed
accidentally.
I don't know if it was an accident or not, but if it wasn't, it was divine intervention, because he just popped the front wheel up and caught the dude and set it down, and the dude went this way.
There's in one of the demonstration videos, we were at CES, and it was right after Dakar, so we had the footage and the data acquisition up on the TV screen, but we also had footage from MotoGP, and Marc Marquez. There's one where he had like a 26G crash or a 28G crash or something like that, and it started off as a low side, or a low side, the wheels just catch grip and just catapulted him, and you can see in the slow-mo he's on his way up, and you can see the airbag deploy, because it deploys in 25 milliseconds. So he's on his way up and it's deploying, and then in the data acquisition, you can actually you can identify where the initial initiation is, and then where he's in the air, and then when he hits the ground, depending on where the G meter is. But then, like I said, it also stays inflated for 5 seconds, fully inflated for 5 seconds, and then slowly starts to go down because, like I said, secondary impacts, whether you hit, a guardrail or a tire barrier or something like that. There is an instance where a rider got up and was walking back, not across the track, but another rider had gone down, and he got hit by him, and he was safe, or he was, less hurt than he could have been because the airbag was still
in. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's a crazy world we live in.
Yeah.
That kind of technology to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So Alpinestars is into cold weather stuff. They're into body armor, airbag.
So
a lot of protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your role. So when I reached out to you, you're like, who's this V-twin guy? I don't even know who these Randy's. He called Randy. It's like, Randy, come on. But you're taking on kind of touring and ADV across the globe.
Yeah. It's, coming into, Alpinestars has always been in the off-road space. I mean, it's our 60th anniversary. They started in 1963, and, their first product was a motocross boot. So off-road is, it's in their history. I'm just kind of jumping in right now. But, the ADV touring space is, it's exploding. So it's, this segment deserves attention. It deserves love. And Alpinestars has a great amount of products for the space. So just I'm just kind of here to shepherd it in the right direction. But, touring, whether it's on-road or off-road or a mix of both, it's, like you said, it's like the best parts about it is, meeting the characters in between, seeing the sights. It's not necessarily about lap times or setting hot laps. And that's kind of what I like about it is it's more casual. It's more, laid back. It's not like there's no trophy.
Right.
There's no prize money. It's just kind of out there just having a good time and meeting good people. And I think
Right.
that's what really the whole adventure segment is about. It's just kind of exploring, getting outside of your norm and just kind of going a little bit further.
Right. I mean, they have what the adventure touring. A lot of people would think you have to have an adventure bike.
Yeah.
And we've ridden the Pan Americas, but we have road glides and street glides and we've been on dirt roads with those. Nothing too gnarly, but we've been on dirt roads. He's done hill climb. We could be anywhere traveling and we always end up on dirt somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's how I envision a Pan America for my style would be. You're traveling, and if you have to hit dirt once in a while, you can.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's kind of, you can see it in the design of the bikes. I mean, you can get cast wheels and street tires for the Pan America, but you can get spoke tires and dirt or spoke wheels and dirt tires for it. And the bike, you don't have to change anything on the bike other than the wheels and tires.
Right.
And it's bikes like that. I mean, the same thing for the BMW GS and KTMs and you name it. They're meant for long distance. And I think that just a bike that's capable to get, if anybody's ever ridden up to Alaska, the asphalt ends pretty quick. And but then what are you going to do? Just stop there?
Right.
The whole idea is to keep exploring. So if you can get to the end of the asphalt and then continue down the dirt road, like that's,
and then find it again.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
We talked to someone that said there's dirt roads from coast to coast that you can never be on asphalt.
The Pan America Trail.
Yeah.
But is there anything else, or is that
Trans?
So Pan America is down to
South
somewhere
America.
down south.
Yeah,
right?
the Trans-America.
Trans-America.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, guys watching, I want your input because I saw a video series of dudes doing the Trans-America Trail on Honda Monkeys. I'm trying to convince my dudes over here to do a cross-country trip on Groms. Let us know in the comments.
Not having that. I mean, I'll give you this. I'll give you a back roads like 2 or 3 day trip.
Okay, that I can do.
But we have to have a chase car.
That's cheating.
No, not for us, just to carry like our luggage.
That's cheating.
So you want to just be in our same gear?
Backpack.
All right.
Fine, we can do a chase car. We just won't tell any people
Where are we
about it.
putting the camera equipment?
I'm just using GoPros, dude. I'm ditching all these big cameras. I'll
Gorilla
bring my
style.
little photo camera
Okay.
and a GoPro.
We
That's
have a
it.
seed change happening here.
Seat change.
You're changing your seed.
My seed.
Big cameras to low cameras.
Oh,
no
yeah.
cameras.
We're using keep it simple, stupid. I'm over it.
What kind of comments have you had over there?
We had a person asking if it will go off if you get punched. And I said, we tried that already. Did not work.
We have, my coworker has at the track, someone gave him a slap on the back, like good lap out there, and it went off.
Okay.
So
be a little
a good
careful.
slap.
yeah.
I was halfway through answering this one, but I figured you might have a better option. He said, maybe I missed it. What if the vest airbag goes off? Do you have to replace the CO2 or what system do you use? And it's argon, right?
Yes,
There
it
you
is
go.
argon. Argon expands faster than CO2. It's a little bit more expensive, but in this case, expensive is better because it expands faster, does its job faster, and it inflates faster.
And speak to, you can repack it, the vest 3 times. What about the 5 and the 10?
So it's twice for the Tech Air 5, and then you have to send it in to get the canisters recharged, and they kind of look over it to make sure there's no structural damage because you want it to work next time you use it. So then with the Tech Air 3, after 2 discharge, you do a full refurbishment, and then it's the same for the Tech Air 5 and Tech Air 10, but you have to send it in. You only get 1 deployment with the Tech Air 5 and Tech Air 10.
So with the vest, you get two
deployments.
2 deployments. So you don't have to go in and hopefully you don't have to have 2.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the video, and I think they try to turn it around within a week.
Yeah. It's
So
super
it's
quick.
And is that the cost? Is that on the individual? Is there a cost with that? Or
Yeah. So it's usually, depending on the price of the vest, it's usually about half of that is what it costs
to repack it
yeah.
and
That's the rule. The rule of thumb is basically half the price of the jack is what it costs to get it refixed.
And hopefully the whole real thing is you really don't have to ever have it repacked.
Exactly. A lot of people say, well, that's kind of expensive. I'm like, well, how much is your medical bills if you
Right.
don't wear it? And it's kind of like, that's a little bit more expensive than that. And
For
then-
life.
So what
Yeah,
if you never
exactly.
use it? Is it ever age out?
That I do not know.
I don't know.
That's a good question. I mean, is it like a year and then rehab it,
I've
recheck?
actually never been asked that before.
Yeah.
So
But the battery life on these are like 40 hours, right?
yeah,
At
you
least
definitely
on
have
the three,
you
right?
definitely have like more than a full day's ride
Yeah.
on there. Yeah.
So it was 40 hours for a 4-hour charge. So for those that are listening, you can recharge these whenever you want. You have more than 40 hours of riding.
And it was a simple like USB and almost was it an iPhone?
Yeah, it was USB-C.
USB-C. Yeah.
Open a little tab, charge it up.
Bing.
Max says, can it protect you in an Isle of Man TT race crash? Craziest crashes I've ever seen. Bikes going about 180. Better than not having it, right?
Yeah. So I mean, in that case, I don't know if the guys I know MotoGP is required to wear them. I'm not sure if the guys in Isle of Man wear them, but a crash is a crash.
Yep.
There is a lot of things that the Isle of Man organization could do to soften the blows a little bit with against those like stone walls and picket fences, but yeah, it's a crash is a crash. So it's the Tech Air 10 would probably be in that scenario.
Yeah.
The Tech Air 10 would be the
The
best
most
one.
protection you can.
Exactly, yeah. And in race scenarios, that's basically the one you want to go for.
Right.
And then the only other question we had, which is way back, but had something to do with this guy was asking if there is some sort of subscription needed to keep it active, which I don't believe is the case.
No.
Yep.
No subscription needed.
But
There is an app,
There's an
but,
app,
but you
right?
don't need the app to
and we can
have
speak
the
to that.
vest.
We haven't used that app yet.
Yeah.
We're going to test it out, but
The app is more just kind of like a visual aid to let you know how much charge you have left, or how much, if you're charging it, how long you have left to charge it, and you can just basically general.
and I think
information.
you can turn it off on the app if you need to. There was something we were watching where a guy was going off road and he's like, I'm going to turn it off just in case. And then he could turn it back on through the Bluetooth.
you can
app.
disarm it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disarm it.
Yep.
I got to step out, so it's on you guys. Figure it out.
Great. So I had asked you, like, if I'm cutting through traffic, is that going to be a problem? And you're like, because in California we can do that.
Yeah.
And you said, no, I do it. I mean, I have no problem.
Yeah, we did. I mean, yeah, like I said, that's a normal riding scenario. So it's not like the vest can sense. It doesn't matter if there's cars near you.
No.
If one of those cars hit you, then yeah, it'll go off. But yeah, it's just it knows what regular riding is. It's pretty crazy to think about. Like getting like, I mean, if there's been scenarios where like if you hit a pothole and you get some like air under your tire, like it's a possibility, but it genuinely does a pretty good job of telling the difference between imminent crash and you're okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, I've got, what was it? The 94 earthquake? What was Northridge? So on many of the overpasses on the 118, there was damage. And so they had to build them up. I mean, I'm hitting taking air
Yeah.
and I'm boom, boom, boom. And it's, because that's a little bit I was worried about. Like, if I'm coming off the seat and slamming back down,
It's possible.
but I haven't had it yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it is possible,
Yeah.
but it does a fairly good job of knowing the difference. With that, it's kind of like there's always a scenario for something.
Right.
So
We should try it over off like just after Balboa.
Oh, where you just
That
get
big
launched.
But it's also, we were also talking a little bit about earlier, like if that goes off, it's not something that's like just so, I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to feel it,
yeah.
but it should not impact. I
It's
mean,
like
if
you
it
said,
accidentally went off,
A
it's,
big hug.
yeah,
Yeah.
you shouldn't lose control.
So we did an experiment. We had people riding around with the air vests on, and we would deploy them remotely and not tell them.
Oh,
So I mean, no one crashed. Like, it's it goes off, and you're just like, oh, okay, it's inflated now. It doesn't. They designed it so that you can keep riding in the event that it does deploy when it's not supposed to.
Yeah, and I would think with the 3 especially, because you're not draped over, you're not,
Yeah.
you know, you're just, it's just
Yeah.
really here. And yeah, well, that's pretty cool stuff. So they can find this at 2LaneLIVE.com. We put up
They
the
can.
vest, right?
Yep. You got the
Gloves
Tech
are
Air
up
3s.
there. The heated vests are up there. We may have to talk to you a little bit after about making sure we can get the
Sure.
air tech.
Yeah.
What should they know about Alpinestars that if they don't know now? So you were talking about how long the company's been in place.
Yeah, I mean,
Top
it's-
tier.
Yeah, it's been around since 1963. Started making motorcycle boots. Now if you look at almost, I think, any form of motorsport, 2 wheels or 4, we're there. Jimmy Johnson was one of our athletes. He was in our suits. The Formula One guys, the Aston Martin team, and AlphaTauri are one of our another Formula One team. And then MotoGP, and then, name your race category in 2 wheels. So it's pretty incredible to see how much, how prolific the Alpinestars, brand is in like the power sports industry.
Across the globe.
Yeah.
We did have a question on women as well. Are there specific versions for women? Have they tested them on women? And there's some questions.
For the Tech Air 3, we actually do have a women's fit.
Awesome.
Tech Air 3. So we do.
I would think Laura and Teresa would feel really comfortable with having airbag on their.
Well, I've seen them still with their leather vest on at 100 degrees, so I
Yeah.
think they'd be better
Well,
off.
they wear leather
Yeah.
jackets at 100.
That's what he's
Jacket,
yeah. Jackets.
I'm in a t-shirt sweating my,
Yeah,
and there's,
she won't ride without leather.
yes.
She has to have her jacket on. She has a
Yeah.
light one for summer
Mhm.
and then a heavier one for winter, but she just doesn't feel right unless she has sleeves. And
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm one of those people that I got on my bike one time without gloves and I felt naked.
yeah,
Like, there's certain things that you don't like. Everyone's different, but there's
Right.
just certain pieces of gear that are just like, I definitely need
well,
that.
when we first started riding, we were just little brain buckets.
Yeah.
Now we all wear full face helmets,
Yeah.
and we're like, we feel not good without a
Yeah.
full face.
Well, typically I like in the really hot, I like wearing the coverall shorts with my Crocs.
Like Sea Bear, yeah.
Jeff, come on, man.
another question from Snake Boot. Will it also act as thoracic bracing or just to soften the felt blow of impact?
It's really just for impact.
Yeah. 'Cause it's not,
reduction.
it's not inflated. You don't even know there's an airbag.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like 2x4 stiff when it's fully inflated, but it is, it is fairly rigid. But it is designed to be like as a back protector. So
Yeah.
like I said, it's the fully inflated, it's equivalent to 9 CE level 2 back protectors.
So you don't need that for off the line. It's more for track days with that kind of horsepower.
Well, I put it on the
Gosh.
other day and walked
So
around
that-
here just to feel it, and it feels like you're wearing just a regular vest you would wear.
Yeah.
That was,
I missed what you said. I was spacing out.
I said to him,
Okay.
what did I say?
It's a callback to the Keyboard Warrior Cup.
Yes.
No, I have a Saddleman Slim on my bike. Josh
Fruit
runs
snacks.
a step up tour. The canister, when I got on the bike, it kind of, and then like 2 seconds later, it was out of the way, just boom, and it was super comfortable,
Mhm.
and it's like the weight's kind of in the back pocket, but once you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
But the
It's
canister is
crazy.
not round. It's like having a rolled up newspaper.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's
One way to put it.
like I guess it's like about that
Yeah.
that long and
Yeah.
that big around, so it's not it's designed to not be intrusive. Like I
Right.
said.
And I created another system with it. I don't know if I need to talk to someone about this. I put a secondary flask with a hose that I
It's a
can drink my
hydration
whiskey out of.
hydration pack or dehydration pack.
Dehydration pack.
But if the bag deploys while you're wearing it, it shoots the hydration out. So
That's right. You're all over the place.
I was going to type this out, but I figured for people listening it would be better. Bob said, will it float? So I said, it stays inflated for 5 seconds. So technically,
Yeah.
it could float for 5 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, the motorcycle industry isn't the only industry that has this technology. I know big wave surfers have had this for a while.
Yeah,
Alpine
I've
skiers
seen
have this for like avalanche protection.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are going, highway speeds down the mountain.
Right.
So there's similar technology in other applications because people have asked us if we do anything for mountain bike. We have Alpinestars cycling, which is like in the mountain bike world, but we don't have airbag technology for that yet, is what we like to say. So it's
Well, I would
always on the
imagine some
table.
of those high-speed boat racer guys have got something going on too.
Yeah, I imagine so. The technology it's very applicable to a lot of things, and it doesn't take that long to think about where an airbag would do you good, and especially if it's in a garment that kind of just looks like a regular jacket. It's not intrusive like a life vest or something like that.
Yeah, hold that up again. That was what was cool to me, is it was super light, but it also gave a little bit of warmth. And it's got some
breathable.
reflective material on the tops too. So,
well, it's because it's designed to be an outer garment as well. We designed it to have breathability so that if you are wearing a summer jacket, it is still letting airflow go in.
So I don't know if you know, but it was kind of interesting when Josh and I charged these up the first day and we put them on, and it was like, so there's the magnetic piece at the bottom, then you got this magnetic inside, and then one up at the top, or once you get clipped, so it's got to read.
So there's just the magnetic zipper at the bottom. That's just for ease of use, just to make the connection of the zipper easier.
So that has no issue.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with arming it. What arms it is the tab at the top with the lights for the Take Air 3. As soon as those magnets go over each other, it senses it and then it arms itself.
Because it's like it doesn't arm itself until you.
Well, yeah, it just waits for like a secure connection.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you feel it, you put it on and you're walking around, all of a sudden, it's on.
I had it on the other day and I went to the grocery store with my helmet on and it was blue.
Yeah.
And this little kid was like,
Spaceman.
thought that was pretty funny.
So we did have a question from Eric saying, can you sew patches on it or will it pierce the airbags? The airbags are somewhat removable, right?
Yeah, the airbags, I mean, I wouldn't go, deconstructing the vest is not advised. But as far as sewing patches on, there's the outer material. It's designed to be abrasive. Again, that's the first time I've heard that question. So that's actually pretty interesting. I'm going to go back to the office and ask that.
In the front area on each side,
it is layered. I would just be worried about piercing the airbag if you're sewing it on.
Possible, but not recommended.
Yeah, at this point in time, possible. Not.
I mean,
until we find out.
Quite frankly, it's a fairly expensive garment, and I wouldn't mess with any of the technology. I'd hate to stick a needle or something down in there and catch one of the bladders or something.
Yeah, that's what I would be worried about. I usually stay away from electronics on my bike because I don't want to screw something up.
Right.
It'll never be the same ever again.
Let's see here. I'm just getting a link because someone had some questions, and we do have some videos on our site. What are you currently riding, Brian?
I am currently borrowing a KLR from Kawasaki.
All right.
They lent me one because I got to the West Coast and I literally had nothing. So my friends at Kawasaki were kind enough to lend me a KLR to ride around on.
What is a KLR? I don't know.
KLR is basically a 30-year-old motorcycle. No, they redid it in 2018 and again in 2022. This is the third generation, but they've only really renewed it.
It's a street bike?
It's an adventure bike. So it's
Isn't it like a heavy dual sport?
Yeah.
A large dual sport?
Yeah, it's a very large dual sport. But I like it because, it's a single cylinder 650cc bike, but it's the best way to describe it. It's a dirt bike designed to go 230 miles on a tank. So it's a 5-gallon tank, but I've seen 230 miles on it. And it's not the fastest bike by any means, but it does everything really well.
Right.
It just doesn't do the greatest. Like I commute on it every day.
So is it knobby tired?
I do have knobbies on it now.
50/50s or
No, I just put a little bit more aggressive knobs on it because I'm going to do some off-road riding this weekend. But it's kind of like, it's basically like a jack of all trades type bike. Like I rode from Torrance, or no, me and my buddy, we put it in a van. We went from the bottom of Santiago Peak. We rode all the way up to the top. He was on his EXC 500, his KTM. I mean, we did the same thing. He's on a purpose-built dirt bike, and I'm on this, basically has like 40-year-old suspension on it and a 40-year-old engine. Did the same thing. I did it a lot slower than him, but I still did it.
Right.
It really is like it's like a pack mule of a motorcycle. But
It's the thing you want to be on in a world apocalypse.
yeah,
There will be parts and there will be obstacles, but you'll make it happen.
I keep hearing about this earthquake California is going to have, and I was like, KLR is pretty good for that.
Yeah.
It's my get out of
don't
Dodge
say
bike.
that. It's been a while.
Yeah,
the bagger's probably not the best. That being said, you've obviously spent your time around motorcycles quite a bit, on and off road. Is there a favorite road, a favorite location, favorite view that you've seen, you've gotten to on two wheels?
Yeah. I'm just afraid to blow the secret to everybody, but
That's true.
Is it in the
What
western
area
states?
is
it's so my favorite ride. It was the first time that I ever went I was ever on an 8AV bike. We rode across Oregon. We camped out a bunch along the way at the Painted Hills and just like kind of everything through Eastern Oregon. And then we got to Hell's Canyon. And Hell's Canyon there's an 11-mile road that ends at a dam. And it's great because there's not a lot of traffic because it ends at a dam. So there's not a lot.
Right.
And you can pretty much, it follows the canyon wall all the way down. So you can kind of see, there's no real blind corners at all because you can kind of see the next three coming up.
Right.
So you can have a lot of fun going down. And then on the way back, so it's 11 miles there and 11 miles back. And then as you're about to leave, there's a dirt trail that goes up to the left, and you can actually get a good view, go up along this trail. And then about halfway up, it kind of goes out to this little outcrop, and you get this beautiful view of the canyon. And it's just like, it's absolutely spectacular.
Surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
East Coast or West Coast?
Oh, West Coast for sure.
Okay.
It took us, we started on the East Coast. And by the time we got to the West Coast, we finally figured out how to build good roads because there's grading and,
right.
it's just like every time I came to California, I was like, man, I
Have
can't
you
believe
done
I don't
any of
live
the
here yet.
canyons around here?
Yeah. I think the first time I was in California, we rode up to Idlewild up.
Yeah.
43.
Yeah.
Yeah.
243.
243. That road's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And that was like my first
And it's
experience.
like
in
straight up.
California, too. Yeah.
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 Another insane road is 9 Mile out of the 395 up into Kennedy Meadows.
Kennedy
Okay.
Meadows.
It
Sherman
in
Pass.
10 minutes you're like from the desert floor to
And
6,000
you
feet.
could do there's a couple dirt things you could go on if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Randy
Get up to
knows all
Sherman
that.
Pass.
Yeah. We're doing an event in Big Bear in May. And I've ridden from Palm Springs up to Big Bear without touching any pavement. And I actually didn't know I was in Big Bear until like a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to a buddy and I was like, what about that ride? He's like, what was that small mountain town that we popped out into? He was like, dude, that was Big Bear. I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Big Bear's got 240
I was going to
inches
say,
of
I mean,
snow.
if you want to do 9 Mile, it might be August before you get there.
Yeah.
But there's so many cool roads here in California, and we've only really done mostly Southern California. We've done Central Valley, kind of the 49. We've done a little bit like outside of Reno, Kit Carson Pass and down, but there's so much up, and we're going to try to do it this year. There's so much up around Lake Mount Shasta.
Yeah. I rode from on a BMW F850 GS. It's like their mid-size adventure bike. I rode from LA up to Portland. Actually, I rode one of my trips across Oregon. It was the second time I rode across Oregon, but rode from LA, and then I just kind of pointed my bike north. And then once I started getting close to Sacramento, I was like, I should probably find a place to camp. I just stopped in town, looked for a campsite, and I headed there, and I was like, it should be fine. And then I got there, and there was a line like where all the cars were parked. I was like, oh man, it's getting dark. I don't know if I'm able to find a spot. And I go to the camp office. I'm like third in line, and I go to the woman at the desk, and she's like, "Oh, do you have a reservation?" I was like, "Not exactly." I was like, "I just got in. I was just wondering if you had like any spots open." She's like, "Let me check." And she was like, there's one spot open, and they left early today, so you can have that one. And it was right by the lake. I totally lucked out.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I was hanging out with the people at the campsite next to me. Like we were drinking tequila all night, woke up with a massive hangover, and I just took a swim in the lake the next day, and then hit the road and went up to headed up to Portland. But yeah, going through the like Mount Shasta area was absolutely wild. Like coming up, it's like almost you come up over a hill that is like the end of California and just like opens up to
yeah, we're excited to do that. You know, we call it fate when stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, we're out. We've been in towns where the three of us, Inksville, there's only 3 little divey motels.
Yeah.
And it's 9 o'clock at night by the time we're out of there, no room at the inn. And we end up at these covered wagons in this incredible mecca of stars,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Milky Way. And it's just like, it just happened.
Yeah.
We actually laid on the side of the road looking up at all the stars, satellites going across, and just.
Well, we've learned a lot about riding all year round, and winter. If you don't go because you think there might be a storm, you're going to miss the magic that happens if there is a storm.
Yeah.
And it goes through. I mean, there was a trip, we were on the rim of the Grand Canyon, and it was 5 o'clock at night, and we had to get to Williams, and it was a full blizzard, snow covered the whole everything. And we're riding these baggers, but in the canyon, sun keeps breaking through and rainbows, and like all this stuff is happening in the canyon while you're in this storm. It was amazing. And we wouldn't have seen it if we weren't there.
Well, look, before we started the show here, it was coming down like cats and dogs.
Now the sun's out.
Now the sun's out, and it looks spectacular out there. It's beautiful.
And, you know, wind, rain, snow, our wives have dealt with all of it with us.
Yeah.
And they, you know, we were coming back on the loneliest highway, snow covered, gray, just we're digging it. At the end of the day, we're cold, but we're riding still a lot of miles. And all of a sudden the clouds kind of open up and the sun just exploded with this orange.
Yeah.
And all of us, we have it on record. We're all like going, oh shit. Like this made it all worth it.
Yeah.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Yeah. I did a trip for when I was a journalist. I wrote for Gear Patrol. I pitched a story. I wanted to do a big motorcycle trip, and they're like, all right, well, what are you thinking? And I pitched, I want to do Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City. They're like, oh, well, let's think about something, you know, a little more local. And I was like, so like this hemisphere, you know, this time zone, this area code, like what do you, they're like, let's just stick to this continent. I was like, easy, Seattle to Alaska. So we did it. We wanted to do it like old school style, but like, you know, old school, but new school. We did it on a Ducati Scrambler and a Triumph Street Scrambler.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they did it. We did, I think it was like 2,600 miles we did in 6 days. We went from Seattle. We were supposed to go up to Vancouver, but something happened with the bikes where they got delayed. The plates didn't get in or something like that. So then we had to stay an extra day. So the whole point of that was to break up the first leg so we can get used to the bikes and, you know, kind of get our feet under us before we like head into British Columbia and Yukon. So then I was like, all right, we're delayed a day to stay on time. We're just going to go straight to Prince George. So it was like 550 miles the first day. We end up getting in like at night, but it's still like civilization. So it's not too bad.
Right.
And they're like, all right, let's not do that again. So then the next leg was Prince George to the coast, and we were staying in this Airbnb, but it was like an RV, like next to someone's house in a fishing village at the end of like, I didn't know what it looked like. It was just close to because you can't see the topography. All you can see is the town.
Right.
So we're going along this road, and of course it's getting dark, and we're going through this national forest, and like all the bears are starting to come out. We're like, all right, let me get to this one rest stop, and we're like, oh, thank God we made it. Like there's like rooms and like boarding or whatever. We get there and she was like, yeah, all our rooms are full. I was like, no, I have a reservation. She was like, for what? I was like, for here. She's like, oh, no. you're about 2 hours away. That's down the road. Like 2 hours, like it was nothing. Like it was a country mile. And we're like, I turn around and it was just me, the other rider, and our camera guy who was in a Sprinter 4x4 just following us, like taking shots on the road and stuff like that. And occasionally we'd be stopping, but he sets off because you're like, you have the better headlights. You go in front of us and we'll follow you. And it's, you know, the middle of nowhere, Alaska. It's not like there's streetlights or anything like that. And he starts pulling away from us. Like we're not, it's getting freezing cold. As soon as the sun goes down, it's cold. And so we can't see anything outside of our own headlights. Occasionally there'd just be like a big pile of bear shit in the middle of the road. And there'd be an actual bear walking across. We saw like 12 bear in like 2 hours. And then when we're getting closer to where we're staying, you could faintly make out the silhouette of the top of the mountains, like, and just against like the, you know, jet black sky. And then you got this feeling that there was this massive object just right next to the road. You couldn't quite put your finger on what it was, but you knew there was just something big right there. So then we get into this little town, and it's only one way in, one way out. It's like a small like fishing village or whatever. Stay the night, and then in the morning on our way out, we saw what we had missed. And like you said, it was the greenest green you've ever seen. That what was right next to the road was this like sheer cliff face. And the road was basically just carved right into the side of the mountain. The mountains were like snow-capped in the back, absolutely beautiful. And the sun was just coming down the canyon, lighting everything up. And then we got around one road, and then it opened up, and it was a mountain lake with a glacier coming down and mountains in the background. It was like, this is what we missed on the way.
Wow. And yeah, that's what we talk about. When you're riding at night, you're like going, we're not seeing what we could be seeing. Yeah. You know, what are we missing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we did that on the loneliest highway.
Yeah.
Actually on the road up to Ely.
Right.
Because at night, all you could see is a little bit of snow everywhere, and you couldn't tell how deep it was.
And then it's 14 degrees and we're freezing.
Yeah.
And we're like, we got to get to Ely, you know.
But that's why we do this stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all storytellers.
Well, we appreciate you driving up here. It's an hour out of your way. We offered StreamYard, but you're like, no, I want to come up in person. Man. And so that was really cool of you to do that. And we appreciate, you know, getting us some gear and letting us try that stuff out. And we do offer it on the website, as I said. So it's not just we're trying to pitch things. We're trying to get a little bit smarter about how we ride, and that heated gear may help with that. This protection thing is, you know, we've been talking about it a bit. And so the product itself has been around forever, top of the line. And it's cool that you get to kind of take on kind of this global touring adventure space. And I'm sure we're going to have lots of conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you guys spreading the love. And if there's one thing we always like, it's like seeing our gear being used out in the wild as it's intended. So you guys cover enough miles where you guys are basically super riders. So it's the more miles you guys cover in the gear, the better it is for us.
Well, the coolest thing too, for me, knowing that you are a rider, you're an adventurer, you're a storyteller. So you live the same thing. So if you didn't like it, you wouldn't be telling about it either.
I mean, I was a journalist for a long time. So I wrote and, you know, about a lot of brands and reviewed a lot of brands. And, you know, it's not like I had my pick of the litter, but it's, you know, if I had to choose one brand, it'd be a brand that I trust and a brand that I like and a brand that I would personally back.
You wouldn't have come over to them if you didn't like it.
Exactly. Precisely. Yeah.
Well, before we leave, because I want to just clarify one thing about the batteries that you use, because we've seen off-market brands and those batteries just blow up on them.
Yeah.
And so you guys are so deep into the technology.
Yeah. So they're lithium batteries, and they're just, you know, they're the top of the line batteries that you'd find in any other quality product about charging. So you don't have to worry about the, you know, all those horror stories about batteries blowing up on airplanes and stuff like that. But I think hopefully the industry is all past that. But
yeah. What do you got over there, Chief?
Thank you everyone for tuning in. 2LaneLIVE is signing out. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Eagle Rider Motorcycle Rentals and Tours. Don't forget to go to 2lanelife.com. Click the Eagle Rider tab.
And
one beer, and I'm already losing my speech. And check it out. So you can save some money, 5% on your rental and another discount on your club Eagle Rider membership. Subscribe to the website. Hit us up with parts questions. You know,
And most importantly, get out and ride, explore, find it, fill the tank, and go.
Alpinestars. See you down
The road.
And